could I grow these myself? It might seem kind of mysterious, but honestly, it's a lot simpler than you'd think. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the entire journey, from a tiny microscopic spore all the way to your dinner plate.
But first, let's start with a really basic question. We see mushrooms next to the lettuce and carrots, but what are they really? Are they a plant, an animal, or are we talking about something else entirely?
Well, the answer is they're in a class all their own. Mushrooms belong to the fungi kingdom. See, unlike plants, they don't use sunlight for energy. And they're not animals either. Their main job, their whole purpose in life, is to be nature's ultimate recyclers. They break down all kinds of organic matter, returning those vital nutrients to the soil and really keeping the whole ecosystem in balance.
And this slide right here illustrates a super important distinction. The part we actually eat, the mushroom, is really just the fruit. The real body of the fungus is this huge, root-like network called mycelium, and it grows completely unseen underground or inside a log. The best way to think about it is like an apple tree. The mushroom is the apple, but the mycelium, that's the tree itself.
Okay, so how do we take that life cycle and actually make it work for us at home? Well, it all comes down to a clear, repeatable process. This is your blueprint, your guide to get you from spore to supper.
The whole thing really breaks down into these 5 key steps. First up, you've got substrate preparation. That's just creating the food source. Then you've got the spawn, which are basically the mushroom seeds. Inoculation sounds fancy, but it's really just mixing the seeds and the food together. During incubation, we just let that hidden network grow and get strong. And finally, the magic happens with fruiting. That's when we trigger the mushrooms to pop up. Let's walk through it.
So before we even get to step 1, there's a really big decision you have to make. What kind of mushroom do you even want to grow? And this is all about matching the right fungus to its favorite food.
And here is some fantastic practical advice. You do not need to order some exotic material from halfway across the world. The best substrate to start with is whatever you can get your hands on easily and cheaply right where you live. This makes the whole process so much more approachable.
This table just lays it out perfectly. Take a look at oyster mushrooms. They are amazing for beginners because they are aggressive and honestly, they're not picky eaters. They'll happily gobble up straw, sawdust, even your used coffee grounds. Now shiitake, on the other hand, they have a more refined palate. They really prefer the dense energy you find in hardwood. And then you have the common button mushroom, which needs a specially prepared compost to thrive. So, once you've mixed your seeds with the food, your next job is to create the perfect home. And here's the secret. It's not just one environment. Success really depends on creating 2 completely distinct phases to get you from that hidden network to a visible harvest.
Phase 1 is incubation. Just imagine you're trying to encourage that mycelium network to spread as far and as wide as possible. And to do that, you want a dark, warm, kind of stuffy environment. All that carbon dioxide basically tells the mycelium, hey, stay underground, keep eating, and get strong. No light, no fresh air needed here at all. And then comes phase 2, fruiting. Once that mycelium has completely taken over its food source, you totally change its world. You introduce light, a big rush of fresh air, and tons of humidity. This sudden shock acts like a trigger, a wake-up call for the fungus that says, okay, conditions are perfect out here. It is time to produce some fruit and release spores.
And this chart just shows you how dramatic that change really is. Look at this. During incubation, oyster mushrooms thrive in really stuffy air, with CO2 levels over 5,000 parts per million. I mean, that's like being in a crowded, unventilated room. But to get them to fruit, you have to flood the space with fresh air, dropping that CO2 way down below 1,500. It's that environmental shock that convinces the mushrooms to finally show up.
So you've mastered the 2-phase environment, you've been patient. What's next? Well, this is the best part. It's the payoff. After all that careful preparation, you finally get to see the results and harvest your reward. And I just love this quote because it perfectly captures the magic of this final stage. It is truly amazing to watch them appear seemingly from nowhere and then literally double in size every single day. It's incredible.
7 to 10 days. That's it. Once you've harvested and cooked your fresh mushrooms, that's about how long they'll last in the fridge. The clock starts ticking right away, which means you're going to want to plan to either enjoy them quickly or preserve them.
Luckily, you have got a ton of options. I mean, beyond just the fridge, you can freeze or dry your mushrooms, and they'll be good for months. Or you can get a little more creative with canning, vacuum packing, or even pickling them to create something really special. So we've gone from understanding this entire weird and wonderful fungi kingdom all the way to harvesting our own food. And it kind of brings us full circle, back to where we started. We know fungi are nature's great recyclers, turning things we'd consider waste, like straw and sawdust, into nutritious food. And it leaves you with a really fascinating question. What other waste materials in our world are just sitting there, waiting for the right fungus to come along and transform them?